Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by drroto.com.
What is up, and welcome into another special season edition of the One and Done Show. We are your fast break of college basketball information. We are here helping you make sense of all of the movement happening here over the course of this very busy offseason. I am a community executive on Twitter at Munz, and he is the captain of our ship, Mr. Mike Holland. Mike, we are seemingly getting new bits of information and new news just about every minute. A ton of information is coming across. It's a lot to keep up with. Is your head still spinning with everything that is coming across the wire seemingly minute?
Yeah, Eric. I mean, it definitely has been a lot of crazy news coming out recently with all the big names kind of entering the portal here. Not sure if you can hear me clearly. I know I sound a little muffled on your side, but yeah, we've got huge news. We're adding players into our Dr. Roto top 50 board now. That should come out here a little bit later today. We kind of ended the last show with, talk about Kendric Davis being our number one player on the board. And the biggest news ending last week is, the Memphis Tigers securing that commitment from him, reigning AAC Player of the Year. So with that, we have big news as we have an expert here to kind of break down the impact of this move. So with that, we'd like to welcome in Jason Munz, Memphis Tiger basketball beat writer for the Commercial Appeal. Jason, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, looks like Jason might have bumped into a little bit of technical difficulty, so we will bring him back in as he gets back into the studio here. With that, looks like he is actually popping up right on time. So once again, joining us, Jason Munz from the Commercial Appeal. Jason, welcome in. Thanks for making some time for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Apologize for the technical difficulties I was having on my end, but hopefully they're cleared up.
We've got you loud and clear. We are definitely excited to learn a bit more about the Memphis Tiger program and some of the news that's broken here over the last week or so. Mike mentioned the transfer of Kendric Davis. Obviously, big news for the program. First off, would love to know how this process really unfolded. Was Memphis kind of the leader in the clubhouse from the get-go? Or if not, what was sort of the tipping point where Davis ultimately decided to join this Tigers team?
Yeah, I mean, I think based on what I know about how this all unfolded is it was kind of Memphis's. Kendric Davis was Memphis's to lose. I know that there are some, connections, and there was some. He's got some connections to people who have connections to people on Memphis's staff. I don't think it hurt Memphis's chances that Kendric has played against Memphis quite a bit over the last 3 seasons. He's been to FedEx Forum. He's been to Memphis. He knows what kind of coach Penny Hardaway is. He's seen it firsthand. I think that probably helped. I think he wanted to play I think he was highly motivated to play for Penny Hardaway. I think Kendrick seeing the types of things that Penny has done that Memphis has been able to do for its student athletes here in the last year with NIL. I think that was attractive to Kendrick. I think it was attractive to Kendrick the opportunity to play on a bigger stage. I mean, Memphis played on ABC, I think, twice this past year. I think they played on CBS 2 or 3 times this past year. They were on ESPN a lot. So I think those things played a part in getting him to Memphis. So, the way I understand it is Kendrick was interested in Memphis probably a little bit before Memphis expressed any interest in him. And so that's why I say I feel like it was Memphis's to lose. I think he was motivated to play for Memphis, for Penny Hardaway. And yeah, I think that's kind of That's really the impression that I got through this whole process was that, Texas Tech was involved to a certain extent. Kansas was involved to a certain extent. I think he was still entertaining the possibility of going back to SMU up until, fairly late in the process. And then, of course, you once he finally got in the transfer portal, you start seeing some of these schools that are coming at you like Houston and Duke and, some other big name type schools. Maybe that causes you to pause a little bit, but I think once he got to Memphis on a visit, it was over at that point.
Nice. So, we follow the AAC here on the One and Done show a lot, but for the casual fan that, doesn't really follow them as much, what kind of player are they getting in Davis, and what kind of impact do you think will this have for the Memphis program, coming off a pretty strong finish to the end of the year?
Yeah, I mean, they finished strong. It was the first time they made the NCAA tournament since 2014. But shortly after the season ended, Memphis lost quite a few players. So far, five of their 13 scholarship guys entered the transfer portal. They had one walk-on enter the transfer portal who wasn't really a walk-on, Tyler Harris. He started his career at Memphis, was a scholarship guy his first 2 seasons. Then he transferred to Iowa State, where he had a good year, but Iowa State did not. That was 2 seasons ago when Iowa State was pretty bad. So he comes back. The only spot available is a walk-on spot. He takes it. He was arguably one of the top 3 most important players on this team this past year. He goes back into the transfer portal. So really 6 scholarship guys. And then you had Jalen Duren declare for the draft. You had Josh Minot declare for the draft, who was an all-freshman performer, all-freshman team guy in the AAC. So they lost a lot. Memphis went into this offseason with a huge turnover on its roster. So from that standpoint, getting somebody like Kendric Davis is huge. He can do so much. He's fantastic outside shooter, terrific ball handler, elite facilitator. 2 seasons ago, he's 4th in the country in assists per game. So you're getting a very, very dynamic player. He gets to the free throw line a lot at a really high rate, and he makes his free throws when he gets there. I think he's like an 87% or somewhere about there career free throw shooter. But more than anything, really, he's a point guard, and Penny Hardaway has not had a point guard of this caliber since he took over 4 years ago at Memphis. And so, Penny was a point guard when he played, and the fact that he hasn't been able to get an elite level talent at the point guard position, it's been well documented. He tried to sort of shoehorn Amani Bates into that role this past year, and that did not work. He had Jeremiah Martin his first year, who's gone on to play some in the NBA, but Jeremiah Martin didn't have the decorated career that Kendric Davis already has. And I don't know that Jeremiah Martin was necessarily the knockdown shooter that Kendric can be. I don't know that he was as good of a facilitator as Kendric has demonstrated in his career. So, it was just a big shot in the arm from a leadership standpoint, from a finally getting somebody at that all important point guard position that can take over games if that can really put a team on his.
Did we lose him? There he goes. Oh, you back?
Welcome back. Yep.
All right. No, yeah, you're good. I just wanted to kind of touch on that point. You kind of brought it up already, but you wrote a fantastic piece in the Memphis Commercial Appeal. You mentioned that Penny really hasn't had that true point guard, kind of going more with that positionless approach. You've got guys like Quinones, Tyler Harris, Alex Lomax kind of handling that position. What do you think the offensive approach is going to be coming up? Do you think it changes from scheme, having a more traditional point guard, Are they still going to have top 50 type tempo? I know there was a struggle with turnovers last year. Where do you kind of see the offense going, or is it going to kind of be the same type of approach, just with more of a true point guard at that position?
Yeah, I think they're still going to push the pace. I think they're still going to get up and down. If anything, I think they're going to try and place more of an emphasis on 3-point shooting. They haven't been a great 3-point shooting team since, in the last couple of years.
Looks like we might be fighting through some internet issues there for Jason. Mike, he was making a point about this Tigers team's ability, or maybe lack thereof, from the three. So Jason, welcome back. You were commenting about this Memphis Tigers team ability or lack thereof to shoot from distance.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's not even raining, so I don't know what's going on with the.
This show is used to technical difficulties, so it's all good.
Well, I think they're going to place more of an emphasis on shooting the three, but I don't think that's going to change the pace. Like, they're still going to get up and down. They're still going to really try to go fast and get as many opportunities to score points as they possibly can. But I do think the turnovers are going to be improved. Like, they've been very bad at taking care of the basketball over the last couple of seasons, and
so there are a number of things you mentioned for this year to come that are subject to change. Going back to your point earlier, there are a heap of players, roughly a dozen players, that have already declared or are in the transfer portal. And currently, Coach Hardaway is sitting at 0 commitments from the high school ranks. So how do you see the rest of this roster rounding out as we get closer to the start of the season? Are there any other guys like Davis who are in the portal right now that are sort of Memphis's to lose?
They feel like they're in a good spot with Caleb Murphy. He's another AAC guy. He spent the last 2 seasons at South Florida, Caleb Murphy, and I know that Kendric has been sort of trying to convince Caleb Murphy to come play alongside him. He's another dynamic, athletic guard. He's not as good of a scorer as Kendric is, but he's very athletic, very explosive, and can give them a lot on both defense and offense. And so I know that they're looking hard at him. But I would say that the primary emphasis is on the center position. They had Jalen Duren last year, who's a projected lottery pick, who got really, really good at the end of the, as the season went along. He's 6'10", 6'11", and that's a big hole to fill. So I think that's probably, now that they've got the point guard position figured out, I would say that priority number 1 is getting a big to sort of fill the void left by Jalen Duren's absence. And honestly, I don't know that they got their eyes on some guys, but I don't know that necessarily there's one that is just got their attention and that they're absolutely in love with, that's currently in the portal. I think they've got some intel that maybe there's somebody coming in the next couple of days to jump into the portal, and I think they're kind of if that comes to pass, I think they're then they'll reevaluate and figure out what to do next.
So yeah, next thing we kind of wanted to touch on was you kind of mentioned earlier the NIL deals, right? It's playing a big part. We're seeing some pretty big deals out of Kentucky, the Nigel Pack deal out of Kansas State, moving over to Miami. Are there any of those deals kind of in line for Davis, and are any local businesses taking a more active role in this kind of new NIL landscape that we're all trying to get accustomed to?
There hasn't really been any. I did a story last year toward the beginning of the season, and I talked to some of the, I talked to a pretty prominent car dealership owner, and I reached out to FedEx, and they of course no commented. But it doesn't seem like there's any necessarily. It seems like the local businesses are a little bit hesitant to kind of pull the trigger, so to speak, on this NIL stuff. I know Jalen Duran ended up getting a deal with Bose, the audio, like the headphones and stuff, and I think Imani Bates had a deal with Nike that he worked out. So, but I think as we get further and further into this, then we're going to see more and more opportunities come up for players. And yeah, I fully expect Kendric Davis to take advantage of his name, image, and likeness. I mean, he's the AAC Player of the Year. He's considered the number one transfer in the portal this offseason. Here's a guy who's got a chance to, got a shot at an NBA career, and I would find it hard to believe that there's not somebody out there. There's not some money to be made for him on the NIL side of things, and so I think that that was another thing that attracted him to Memphis was the opportunity to make some money.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. A lot of money being passed out, right? So if you're the number one player in the transfer portal, it feels like there's some deals that'll kind of come out here. Just with this age of player movement, uncapped NIL deals, does this kind of offset the disadvantage of penalties being applied to programs, as we kind of know Memphis is under some investigation here and has some sanctions potentially coming?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I mean, I'm sure it doesn't hurt. I'm sure it doesn't hurt that. Let's say even if Memphis does get hit with some penalties, and I don't think really the only thing that would really have a huge impact on the players would be a postseason ban. I don't think that like a loss of a scholarship or two, or maybe the head coach is suspended for a few games, or there are some recruiting limitations placed on visits and things like that. I mean, I think really the postseason ban is the big one here. So, I'm sure that the opportunity to, money doesn't hurt any situation really. If you can make some money and you just so happen to miss out on the opportunity to play in the NCAA tournament, well then, the cards fall that way sometimes. But yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I think you're absolutely right that the ability to go to a place where the fan base is so passionate and the NIL opportunities are seemingly available. I'm sure that helps ease whatever tension there may be about possible sanctions coming down the pike.
Yeah, it's a really interesting space to watch, right? I mean, you laid it out perfectly. A lot of the kind of historical punishments that have been levied by the NCAA are kind of rendered moot in a free market NIL landscape, right? So definitely something to keep a close eye on. As we close out here, I do want to move back to the Tigers specifically. You mentioned Davis is coming over from a formidable SMU program here in the AAC. What sort of ripple effects does that have on the conference as a whole? And is this the year where Memphis finishes atop the AAC?
Well, I mean, I think first and foremost, SMU's been pretty good the last couple of seasons with Kendric Davis at the helm. And so, they're losing him. They also got rid of their head coach, Tim Jankovic, and I think that probably had I think Jankovic losing his job had something to do with Kendric Davis leaving SMU. So, I think off the top, SMU is probably going to take a pretty big step back. And I think that's, really the biggest thing that this transaction is going to do. It might shift a little bit more. It might make things easier on the Memphises of the world and the Houstons of the world to win the conference. if SMU's not pushing them as hard. It's been a pretty top-heavy league over the last few seasons. Wichita State's been in there. Cincinnati a little bit's been in there. But, yeah, moving Kendric from SMU to Memphis should certainly help Memphis's chances. But, look, Houston's really good. Kelvin Sampson is an amazing coach, and they're not going anywhere. They went as far as they went this year. I think it was a Sweet 16 without their two best players. They did not have Marcus Sasser and they did not have Tremont Mark. Two of their three best players were on the bench for pretty much the entire season. And so both those guys are back next season. They're losing Fabian White, but they're also keeping some other really important pieces. So it's going to be tough. They won it this year. Houston won the league this year. It's going to be really tough to dethrone them. But, let's see what Memphis does. I mean, Memphis, they've gone out and they've gotten Kendric Davis. They went out and got a pretty good player from the Sun Belt Conference, a guard named Elijah McCadden. He was a part-time starter, but ended up being named the Sun Belt Sixth Man of the Year. He was Georgia Southern's leading scorer. So they've got those two in the fold. It looks like Memphis is trending in a good direction with Lester Quinones and DeAndre Williams, two of their top scorers from this past season. They both are testing the draft waters, but it seems like Memphis likes its chances for those guys to come back. And then, I think it all depends on what they can do next in the portal. I don't think they're going to be going after any high school guys. It's going to be pretty much all portal from here on out. And, they got a good nucleus. If they get Lester Quinones back, DeAndre Williams back, they've got Kendric Davis, that's a pretty strong nucleus. And if they can go out and get, some other impact type guys out of the portal, then it should be another fun battle atop the league between Memphis and Houston.
Yeah, it really should be. And there's certainly no shortage of options available to them by way of that portal. So with that, we will get you out of here, Jason. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and for helping us become a little bit better informed on everything going on with this Memphis Tiger basketball team. For those of you out there watching and listening, definitely get over to Twitter. Check out all of Jason's great work. You can follow him at Munzley on Twitter, and he does a ton of awesome work for the Commercial Appeal. For my money, nobody really covers this Tiger basketball program better. And anytime you read one of his pieces, it is time well spent. So, Jason, again, thank you very much for spending some time with us here on One and Done.
Thank you, Jason.
Appreciate you guys for having me.
Take care. So, Mike, as we now kind of digest some really good information about everything going on with the Memphis Tigers, that is only somehow a fraction of the news that has broken over these last couple of days. So with all of this conversation and talk about everything happening with the transfer portal, yet again, arguably some of the biggest news has to do with a player that is not transferring and deciding to stay put. Why don't you tell us about one of our favorite Price Kings, Mr. Oscar Sweet?
Yes. It feels like we talk about Oscar a lot on this show. So, yeah, obviously a huge story, right? Kentucky getting back Oscar Tshiebwe, reigning National Player of the Year, averaged 17 points, 15 rebounds, almost 2 steals and 2 blocks a game. Just an absolute animal. And he's returning with the sweet $2 million NIL deal, right? So why not come back and play a little college hoops and make some money? The traditional big man now is alive and well for this NIL money where, there's a lot of talk about what he could really do at the next level. So him being able to come over and make this money, awesome stuff. You see a lot of these big guys that, you look at someone like a Luka Garza, right, from Iowa, like how much money he potentially could have made in his time at Iowa. And now he's, kind of a backup big for Detroit. Don't really know what type of ceiling he's going to really have, but these guys now have an opportunity to really make some nice money before they even, enter the NBA or overseas. So huge news. Obviously with him coming back, we're going to talk a lot about, what that's going to do for Kentucky, right? I mean, you add the National Player of the Year, you're going to increase your chances of a Final Four type season. Obviously, we saw what happened. They ran into the buzzsaw of the St. Peter's Peacocks there, but you bring back Sheboy here. Man, I don't know what we're going to do in DFS with Sheboy, right? It's going to be one of those things where he is probably going to be pushing 11,000, 10-5, 11,000 a lot of nights. I mean, he was putting up 40, 50 fantasy points pretty much every night with the massive double-doubles. Man, it's going to be tough. He's probably going to land in that 50% range on most tournaments on DraftKings and FanDuel, and you just have to decide kind of which route you want to go. Are we going to play him or are you going to fade him? And you're just going to have to live with it. Fading him's not the most fun thing you can do, but it's just exciting, right? College basketball alive and well with with these type of guys coming back. It just really increases the excitement, just really enhances the game. So what are your thoughts about Sheboy coming back?
Man, there's one point that you mentioned that I think is really interesting and that I agree with a lot. There's another one that I actually tend to disagree with. In the case of the former, your point about traditional big men and what sort of life they have in front of them in the NBA is super valid, right? Like, there aren't a whole lot of guys playing Oscar's style of basketball that are getting significant minutes, that are getting second and third contracts at the NBA level. So you can stay at a program and clear seven figures and play a game that's more natural to your talent, your skill set. That's a really appealing argument to be made. And I think we see more and more big men specifically hang back in the college ranks and clear those NIL checks. The area where I disagree with you is you said that if you're adding a player of the year candidate to your team, you're going to have Final Four and national contender upside, unless you're John Calipari, who manages to get bounced out of this tournament in the first or second round every year. I mean, what's going on with Cal and this Kentucky team? Why can't they ever beat an underdog in the early rounds?
Yeah, I know, right? But you would rather have this opportunity than not have this opportunity, right? I guess that's the big thing. I mean, getting this guy back, though, I mean, he's just going to be so comfortable coming in. He's getting his point guard back, Severe Wheeler, one of the top assist men in the country. They got news earlier today, man. They're getting a really big-time score from the college ranks. Illinois State transfer Antonio Reeves, who we had as the 22nd ranked player on our drroto.com top 50 transfer board. Second team Missouri Valley player, has got massive scoring upside, man. Can really, really score the ball. I think that's something that Kentucky kind of, you look at that St. Peter's game, they just needed someone to go get them some clutch buckets. You had Ty Washington. He was struggling with that injury towards the end of the year. Severe Wheeler's more of a facilitator. Sheboy is not really that guy that you're just going to dump it down to and play through the post. He's going to do a lot of his damage cleaning up the glass on pick and roll. With Wheeler as the main role option, obviously, not really obviously a knockdown shooter or step back, pop type shooter. So, getting this guy Reeves, man, you put on this guy's film and he can absolutely score at all three levels. I think it's going to be an interesting kind of game changer as they get to the tournament, because they'll have that guy that, towards the end of the game they can get that ball to. And then I'm pretty excited about the two guys they're getting in. They're getting in from the high school ranks here, 2 5-star players. They're getting Cason Wallace, who man, he's probably the best two-way player in high school right now. So he's probably going to slot in at that shooting guard position for them. You're also going to get another 5-star player, forward Chris Livingston, who's another baller here. So, man, their first 5 coming out is looking pretty good right now. It's going to be interesting to see what else they can kind of add to this, because depth with Kentucky last year didn't seem like there was much of it, and they just really didn't have that go-to option. So it feels like their roster kind of rounding out a little bit better as far as being able to play different styles and being able to have that kind of go-to guy towards the end. So what are your thoughts about the Reeves transfer and kind of like Kentucky's outlook, even though our boy Cal seems to squander it here most years?
Yeah. I mean, their outlook is incredibly bullish, right? They've got all the horses they need to be a national title contender. We'll see if this is the year where they can ultimately execute, especially in the games in the tournament. Specifically to Reeves, the thing that just screams at me is he is the player that is taking the Ty Washington role, right? And like we talked about last time we were here on the One and Done show, players coming in from these mid majors, right, from Illinois State, it's going to take some time for their price tag to catch up to where it really should be. And as you recall, towards the end of the season, returning from injury, there were plenty of slates where Ty Washington was 4.5K, 5.3K, and was absolutely smashing value. I think we're going to see a lot of that out of Reeves, especially in the early slates when the algorithm is taking some time to catch up, right? The DFS providers are still focusing all of their time and attention on football. So we should be able to catch some serious green screens as that algorithm catches up. And Reeves is going to be one of those favorite plays for me. So sit back, take notes, make sure that you circle and underline Reeves' name because we're going to be going to that well early and often.
For sure. And then the other kind of huge news here in the last week, Miami, your guys, the team that you like to make fun of their age, they're getting some younger guys transferring in. They're getting 2 top 10 players on our board, right? So Nigel Pack, highly sought after guard from Kansas State, coming in our number 6 ranked player, average 17 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, coming into Miami here to kind of take over one of those guard spots that Miami used so heavily last year. And you're also getting the Arkansas State forward who announced yesterday, Norchad Omier. He is coming over as someone that brings a little different skill set than what Miami had last year. Miami liked to play kind of that 5-out role with Wardenberg as a kind of a stretch 5, kind of giving up some size inside and not really being able to really punish anybody inside. Omier kind of gives us someone that's going to be around the basket a little bit more. On the other side, he's going to be able to block some shots, which they didn't have much of that. I'm really liking what Miami's doing here. They lose Cameron McGusty and Charlie Moore, 2 of those big 3 at that guard position that they played so well with. And we're kind of waiting on the news of Isaiah Wong, right? He's entered the draft. There's probably more realistic expectation that he is going to be returning. And so, if he does come back, you look at putting him with Nigel Pack. You return one of our guys in DFS that probably made us a lot of money this year, Jordan Miller. Really rock star season last year, and he's only going to get better. And then you add Omier in here, and this Miami team, Jim Larinaga, man, he's putting together a pretty solid piece to kind of battle with the the powers that be, because Duke and North Carolina don't look like they're going to slow down at all next year.
Yeah, they really don't. With just by proxy of the players that are leaving, right? It's hard to see McGusty go, but immediately this team gets younger because both those dudes are like 35 or something like that. They're more likely to get an AARP card than they are to get drafted.
For sure.
But specifically with Omier, right? Like all year long, one of our kind of cornerstone strategies was to fire up big men against this Miami team.
Yeah.
And with this one addition, it feels like they could really change their philosophy on how they attack this game. Do you think that he can continue to play at this defensive player of the year level at this Power 5 conference team, or do you think that was more of a product of kind of the quality of players that he was going up against?
Yeah, so I think that's going to be the biggest thing we have to watch for here, right? We're seemingly just jamming in big men against Miami in the DFS world, and teams that they knew if you were going to beat Miami, you didn't really want to run up and down with them. You wanted to punish them inside. It's going to be interesting, right? Because he's only 6'7", 6'8", which it's plenty of size for the college ranks. But is he going to be able to produce that defensive player of the year type effort and stats that he got playing at Arkansas State? I don't know. You pop on the film, he's super athletic, really controls the glass, positions himself well to get those rebounds. It just gives Larinaga a different kind of a different look here, right? He can still play, his 4-out and him in the middle. I give you that elite, screen setter, the roll to the basket type guy here. So, it's just going to be really interesting, something to pay attention to early in the season on how this team kind of performs, because we did see last year, man, they were loving the run up and down and, pick and pop 3-pointers all day. Miller was kind of cleaning up on those outside shots on the offensive glass. So I'm really excited, but who knows? It's the transfer portal, right? Can these guys gel? Is the system going to change at all? All things to kind of look for here. I think from a DFS perspective, we're going to be playing a lot of Nigel Pack, depending on his price point. If he's sub 8K, kind of like McGusty, Wong, and our guy Charlie Moore, where we're just going to be playing a lot of this guy if he's 6.5 to 7.5, right? Because it seemed like every game one or maybe even two of these guys in a pace out spot was going to get there. So yeah, we're going to probably be going to a lot of Miami going forward. So what are your thoughts kind of a DFS outlook for these guys?
Yeah, I mean, slate in and slate out, almost all of these Hurricanes were just dramatically underpriced, right? $5,000, $8,000, $1,000 less expensive than they really should be based on the numbers they were putting up. And I am more than excited for that trend to continue as we roll into the new DFS season. So, Miami's out here making a ton of really splashy additions. Hopefully they can stay off the radar and we can take advantage of some good value in the pricing overall. But only time will tell. So with that, we will round out this episode of the One and Done Show. We do have some more news. We've got a couple of additions to your big boards and also some guys that are deciding to stay put and falling off of the big board. Let's tell everyone about that update on the board itself.
Yeah, so we, as the portal grows over 1,300 guys, our board's moved up to 50, whereas where we thought we'd start. But there's just so many impact guys, we might have to get up to 75, maybe 100. So we'll see how it goes as the portal shuts down pretty soon here within the week. But big news, right? Baylor Shireman, the darling of the first round of the tournament, right? Coming over from South Dakota State into the portal and slots in at number 2. I gave a lot of thought. Man, and this guy, he can just do everything. Great size, 6'6". If you didn't see him play, a lot of fun to watch. Big Sky Player of the Year. 16 points, 8 rebounds, 4.5 assists. There's not much he can't do. His name's still in the draft. There's thought that he's probably going to withdraw, probably take a pretty good NIL deal wherever he ends up. All of the big names are in on this guy. So definitely someone to watch for here as he's going to make a huge impact wherever he lands. Big news also, Caleb Love is returning with that core back to UNC, so that kind of solidifies the that top-ranked status for North Carolina. St. Louis is Yuri Collins, so some A-10 news. We haven't really touched on much of the A-10. They're expected to contend again for that conference. He removed his name from the portal. He's that's one of the top assist men in the country, so good to get their leader back here. And then we talked about Sheboy returning, the big man for Kentucky. Well, Michigan's getting their big men back again, and that's Hunter Dickinson. He instantly makes them obviously a contender depending on what some of the guys in the draft do and what some of these freshmen coming in can do. And then just like our guy Shireman, more news. I think it was this morning, if I'm not mistaken, but Malachi Smith, just a major weapon from the Chattanooga team here, the Mocs. Major weapon into the portal. We're going to probably slot him in somewhere in the top 10. Man, maybe challenge for a top 5 spot here. So just a ton of news to keep going. That's why we're here, to kind of catch you up and give you some quick hitters on these things. So what are your thoughts on any of these kind of quick hit news before we get out of here?
Yeah, at least with Smith, right? Like you're kind of waffling on where he's going to fall. He's certainly going to be within the top 10 of available players on your board here, and unless some more chaos happens in a couple of days before this portal closes, which now as we creep up on almost 1,500 kids in the portal, could certainly happen. Honestly, the thing I wanted to close out with and get your opinion of is like, what is the NBA going to do with their minor league system essentially all deciding to stand pat, right? Like unless a guy is a top 5, top 3 maybe lottery prospect, like there's going to be really strong cases for them to stay put. And does that just kind of create a lapse here for a few years and eventually they won't have eligibility? Or do you think the NCAA steps in and maybe tries to regulate this? Like how does this unfold if we roll the ball forward a few seasons?
Yeah, I think it's actually a good thing for the NBA, right? It used to be there for, the last 10, 15 years or so. So many underclassmen into the draft, right? And, these kids now have an opportunity instead of just taking that leap of faith to get this NIL money. They're obviously in school. I would hope most are getting their degree if they're going all 4 years there, but it's college basketball. But I think the NBA is just going to kind of get more of a finished product when it gets to the league in the late, mid to late first round. And then the second rounders, I think they're going to be more impactful. You're going to see, the second round be littered with more juniors and seniors than, guys taking chances on the freshmen that,
wasn't a lottery pick that just fell, that gonna have to go to the G League for a few years. I just think it's gonna make for an overall better NBA product. Because you're going to have some of these guys stay and take some of these deals. Sheboy, absolutely know what you're going to get after 4 years of college with them. Nigel Pack, you're going to know exactly what he is after 4 years of college. These guys can slot into the NBA or overseas, make some good money. It's going to make the college product a lot better because you're getting older that way. It's going to make the NBA product better because you're not just, obviously teams are still going to do their tanking and stuff like that, but you're going to be able to get more quality players coming out of the college ranks than what you were, where it may take 2 to 3 years, development to finally reach that stage where they're kind of reaching that development in the college ranks.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense that the players will be more acclimated and ready for a pro level game, the longer that they stay and get those reps as they're growing young men. Teenagers have been going to the league and honestly having a harder time adjusting. So makes a lot of sense that the players coming in will be better for it, but it does create an interesting lapse of time, right? Like this Thunder franchise that had just been stacking up draft capital for the next 2 or 3 years, like there might not be a whole lot of guys there for them to pick from until some of these dudes start to age out from an eligibility standpoint. So definitely something to watch, definitely something interesting to ponder and to think on as we think about how all of this continues to unfold. Something else that you all should definitely do. One, if you're watching us on Twitter, get over to MC Holland 34, hit that follow button. He is covering all of this news as it breaks. He's giving you his instant reaction in addition to compiling his big board and to helping educate us here on the One and Done show. If you want even more detailed work of his, you can head over to drroto.com. Get yourself subscribed. You'll find all of Mike's articles and podcast and video pieces over there. And you'll have access to our member-only Discord where we are talking through all of these details as they break out and as we get closer into the start of the 2022-23 NCAA basketball season, really getting you geared up to see some green screens in DFS. And with that, we will bid you adieu for this off-season edition of the One and Done show. Let's get this bread.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. And until the next visit, be well and take care.